Chairman, we're live.
Welcome back to our meeting for June 16th. This is our afternoon session. First up is our opportunity to look at, we're going to do a preview of our mobile risk assessment dashboard. So if you want to wait for Juan to get here, do you want to go ahead and do the bid opening first?
Yes, actually.
Let's
be
do
great.
that.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead then and jump to the 145 action item. We have a bid opening, and then we will wait for our emergency managers. Okay, somebody can record these. That would be great. Figure out.
Oh, wow. Look at you.
We got a lot.
That's impressive. She has this
very organized.
formed.
And we did receive a lot of these. So this is East McCall Unit 4 from Jeffrey Miller Excavating. And this is 19.9 acres, more or less, at $2,750 per acre.
Okay, $2,750.
$750. And I always just used my phone to calculate.
Well,
If you want to do the calculating, I'm keeping track of the.
how many acres is it?
19.9.
That was Jeffrey Miller.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay. Next up is
Let me
What's
know
the
what-
total?
Oh, I'm still working on that.
Yeah, just let me know what the total is, Callan.
54,725.
4,725.
4725.
Okay, got it.
Okay, next up is Baron Loper.
All right.
Gotta get me a letter opener. Official bid opener. Okay, for Baron Loper, his is $2,274 an acre.
Got it.
I've got this all, Neil, so
Do what?
I said I'm writing it down, so I'm good. I got it.
So this is $45,253.
I don't have a total though. Which one's that?
45,253.
Isn't it 272.5?
Okay.
Well, let's see. 2274 times 19.9.
Oh, there I got.
42,000 or $45,253 rounded up.
Yep.
Okay, this one is John Lydrickson.
Okay, it doesn't have a John on here. What's the name of the company?
Specialized land for it.
Is it Specialized? Okay.
And this one is $2,995.
For a total of
59,601.
601.
0.9 makes for a weird bid.
Yes.
Next one, I cannot tell who this is from, so we will open it up first.
Just round up.
No, unfortunately for the grants, they go by 1/10 of an acre.
Oh.
Yeah. They're pretty exact.
This one name is Elliot Nachtman,
The rad
Silver
mulching.
Creek
So
Brush.
this is-
Oh, yep. Silver Creek.
Silver Creek Brush Management,
Okay.
and his is $1,500 an acre.
1,600?
1,500.
1,500.
$29,850.
Next one is Rad Mulching. Go get my knife in the back.
You want mine?
I brought one. I brought one just for this, but I didn't want to leave it out here just laying around. Next time I might. We're getting a lot more bids. Okay, from Rad Mulching and Fire Reduction is $1,989.
$39,581.
581. Okay.
And last but not least, D&D Trees and Land.
Wow, we're getting quite a variation of bids. These guys need to tighten up their show. This is amazing.
D&D Tree and Land, $3,190.
$63,481.
So low bid is
Silver Creek Brush Management.
So, question for Mara, before we bid on this. You worked with this guy before
He's the current contractor up on Kings Pine right now.
on King's Pine?
Yep, so he's the one that's working up there currently.
So this is where this project is at, is up there
No,
also?
this project's off of Elo Road.
Oh,
So that's probably why he bid so low, is because he is located right here now. So he'd like another job here locally. As of right now, he's done good work. But obviously, once you start bringing in new bidders, prices are going to change, right? And so you're definitely seeing that with these two new contractors. I haven't seen Rad's work. He's done a lot of work down in Adams County, but he hasn't specifically worked for us. So maybe it's a shift of prices coming down because there's new people bidding. But also they haven't bid in Valley County too much yet either, where you can see the other ones that have been in Valley County for a long time are literally like $200 off of each other. So it'd be good and bad, right? But also I'm willing to give him a try. I mean, he's gotten that bid up there at Kings Pine. He's doing good work currently. So
yeah, he just 50%, more than 50% lower than the highest bid. But I mean, that's. I mean, we're gonna take the lowest bid, but
And I've created a new process now. Specifically with contractors, I actually have inspection forms now. So I do, throughout the whole time they're on a unit, they get inspected 3 to 4 times, and they actually have an inspection sheet that they have to sign off. I meet with the owner of the contracting company. So there is a process now that if they don't work out appropriately, it's easier to not use them in the future.
And technically, we don't have to take low bid on this. This is not over a bid requirement. So it's really about past experience with these individuals. If for some reason they are not doing good work for the county and they're not, current, then we don't have to accept low bid.
okay. So
But
that's kind
that
of
is
why I
best
was asking.
practice.
And that's why I've created a process to be able to actually analyze and determine if they're good contractors or not, right?
We've done this once before. We denied one of them that was low, and I think it was
They had
staff knew
outstanding
that.
work that had not been honored. So
And as of right now, he's a good contractor as of right now.
sign that one.
So
I'll make a motion that we award the project to Silver Creek Brush Management, $1,500 an acre for a total of $29,850.
Second?
And moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So you sign this one. You don't have to.
Oh well.
Right, so we will go ahead then and move forward with the mobile risk assessment.
I also have a contract amendment too that was supposed to be at the same time as the bid.
Oh, there we go. Amendment to the Kings Pines GNA. Okay. Did you all get a chance to look at that? Looks like we're gonna get a couple more acres.
Yep.
out of This whole thing.
Yeah, so a couple of landowners that you signed last week got on board to do some work on their property. So I just included their parcels into the current project actually. And this is the same guy that just won that bid actually. So he's getting 2 more additional acres up there at Kings Pine.
Okay.
I would move that we approve the amendment to the Kings Pine GNA agreement.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Perfect.
I thought I saw one of those little somewhere.
I brought a knife that's in the back. I just need to.
Yeah, the
I
one
just
that's
feel
square
uncomfortable.
has a
Maybe I'll
little
stick
razor
it in
blade
there
in
or
it.
something.
Oh, one somewhere.
The letter opener at home. I just can't remember it. Okay, let's go ahead then and move forward with the preview to the mobile risk assessment. There's so many people interested in this.
So
Well, a lot of
this,
questions.
obviously, the county has been helping fund this for quite some time. It's currently was being funded out of Title III, Stephanie Nelson's contract. And she was the one that had only the access to it. So back in 2011, by my understanding, some of the Title III funding was going to kind of go away. So Donnelly Fire Working Group, and Stephanie came together and came up with the mobile risk assessments, which basically goes over each individual lot in Valley County and
Alright.
gives it a
Use the microphone. Oh, public, I'm sure is watching this.
and gives each lot an individual assessment, risk assessment. And so when she was about to leave, obviously retire, the goal was to make it more of a user-friendly dashboard where multiple entities can have access to that. And so Juan came up with a plan with the fire chiefs to basically create this dashboard based off of Caribbean helping him with all hazard risk mapping as well, the Valley County assessors. So basically a user-friendly dashboard for fire protection and fire personnel to go out and do assessments. And that's what you're seeing here. So a lot of these assessments were already done prior with Stephanie, and back in the day they hired between 4 and 6 personnel to go out there and do assessments. By my research, it took 3 to 5 years to be able to do 13,000 assessments. So on a given year, they'd get around 1,000 to 2,000 homes assessed. And we currently have about 5,000 acres unassessed. The last time that they actually went out and did assessments was right before COVID.
5,000 acres or property?
5,000 properties, sorry. So 5,000 structures that are still unassessed. As you can see, basically up here in this little black area, it shows you how many unassessed in the whole county.
It's hard to get a grasp looking at it where those dots are at.
Yeah, and once you zoom in, you can obviously see more of where that
Oh, there we
individual.
go.
And this is also connected to the county assessor parcel page, which is awesome. When she updates splits, new construction, all the things, it'll update this as well. And that's one of the things that we'll have to keep getting updated with her contract. But if you go and click on, let's say, this parcel right here, it'll show you all the different assessments. So we assess access, lot evaluations, the structure itself. So one of the ways that houses actually burn down is actually embers getting into the structure. So that's getting into eaves, going under decks, all those things. So we truly look at the whole lot itself and not only just the vegetation. And then we also look at additional structures. So each one of these assessment data points has a value, a numerical value, and we actually based it off of the Wildland Urban Interface International Code. So they assess certain things in the international code. So we adopted those standards, but then looked at how the IDL, Idaho Department of Lands, actually assess their individual structures and included that as well. So we kind of molded two different assessments into one big assessment. And the biggest thing with this that everyone has to realize, it's an assessment, right? You can go to Colorado and they have different assessment values for wildfire risk as well. Same with California. This is just an initial assessment for fire personnel, myself, and emergency manager to kind of look at an area and see what their assessment value is. That's one thing that's a little off with fire risk, is there's not like one national standard. I think there's a couple reasons for that, right? Is insurance base their own assessments off of different values as well. Every insurance company. So that's kind of some of the big problems we're seeing, right? Is what we're also assessing is different than what even insurance companies are assessing. So that's one thing I'd like to kind of hit on so that you guys know, just because we have this in this risk of this assessment as moderate, that doesn't mean insurance is assessing it as the same. This will not be accessible by everyone. It's only certain people that will be able to access this. So the fire, good morning, that's okay. So the fire chiefs and myself are the ones that have access currently. Going into the future, if anyone wants access, the goal is to bring it to the commissioners, but have myself and Juan as the basically approvers, since not everyone needs access. This truly is an assessment tool for myself to be able to apply for grants, and for Juan when he's doing emergency management for evacuations and for flood risk and total value of structures in a certain area.
I know we've talked about it, but I don't know if these two have talked about it, but we are unable to get those values that the insurance companies are using.
Correct.
So unfortunately, we won't share that, so we can build a program, to them, but.
And that honestly would be key in my mind, because what they're assessing would be beneficial, so that when we're discussing what individual landowners should be doing and conducting on their property, we're telling them what all insurance companies want. And that's just kind of one of those things that I think is coming to the forefront now, and I think it's getting worked on and discussed now. Just hasn't been finalized.
I was amazed when I had to drive around West Mountain this morning to get here. And so I start looking at all the properties. They're almost all on your right-hand side. Very thick. Everywhere you go, all the way through there. And I'm going, how did we not lose structures? It was just looking at how thick that stuff is around all those homes. It's amazing.
And so that's one thing that's nice with this specifically, is I can kind of trigger a certain area and be able to look and see that this area needs work, because it's more of those structures are in high risk value. So then we can work together, apply for a grant, and kind of focus in on certain subdivisions. And that's one thing that's really cool that they created, is that you can actually pick a subdivision and be able to get all the values onto an Excel sheet, so that we know exactly what they need to work on, whether that's roofing or the siding of their buildings, or it's access. So sometimes it's their driveways, or it's one way in, one way out. Sometimes it's fire hydrants. There's no fire hydrants. So if they actually just put a big 3,000 gallon tank out there, that could reduce their fire risk. And that comes in pretty critical with what a lot of the fire marshals are doing right now. Is there was already established fire hydrants throughout the whole county, so some of these subdivisions didn't have access to water, but were getting built. That wasn't a requirement back in the day, and now it is. So new developments have big tanks and stuff like that, but some of these older ones don't. And so this is allowing us to kind of determine what some of their needs are, even subdivision based. She also did break it down into different fire districts. So it gives you the total of what the value of structures is in the McCall Fire Department district. How many homeowner exemptions, which that you can actually see on this spreadsheet, of how many how many are non-exempt, which is pretty critical when one actually claims for a natural disaster. You have to know how many in a given area are exempt or non-exempt.
$31 million structure. Oh my goodness. That's weird.
Saw that. I thought it was a combined. That's one structure.
That's one structure.
Yep.
That's the maximum dwelling unit. Well, there's one in Donley at 14 million.
But yeah, this gives us a totality
Yeah.
of where we need to work in Valley County. Some specific things that we need to identify, like access, whether it's actual fuels removal, or just need to go out there. Maybe this is a new subdivision that we need to trigger and actually do an assessment. Where if you see a lot of black, that's probably a newer subdivision that's just started getting built. Might have been there, but the structures haven't been assessed yet.
Is that Blackhawk?
Yep. That is White Cloud.
White Cloud?
Yeah, this is White Cloud right here. Yep, and then Black Hawk's right there.
That doesn't have very many people in it yet.
So
Blackhawk
really,
on the river is almost
some
built
big
out.
things is Stephanie. That was something that she kept up in her contract, was doing some of these assessments, and obviously he started just doing it individually, so it takes a lot longer to get 5,000 structures done when it's one person doing it. This year, the fire departments have graciously offered just to do the assessments to see how many they can accomplish in 1 year with their fire marshals and with myself. So we're kind of getting an estimate of how many we can do in just one season. And then come next year, we will have a proposal of how much funds we'll need to hire individual assessors to go finish them. 5,000 assessments most likely will not be done this year, since it did take significant amount of time when they first created this to get 13,000 structures accomplished. So that is something that obviously we can do some of the work, and then it's upkeep after that. So after we get all structures assessed in Valley County, the goal is to do 20% every year, because someone might change their decking, right? Someone might put in a fence that's attached to their structure, or take away a fence, or enclose their deck. And so these are some of the values that I like to start triggering subdivisions. So when I see that a subdivision is in extreme or high, sending them a mailer saying, hey, I can come out and do a subdivision assessment for you guys, let you guys know what each one of your parcels need to work on, and then we can work on bringing your value down.
Go up a little bit so I can see my house.
Around McCall, man, it's all high risk.
And some of it, right, is going to be some of that overstory, because you can't, even in the city of McCall, it's just so dense. So one of the assessments is how close your dwelling is to the next dwelling. And if you have a 7-foot easement, your dwellings are going to be underneath 20 feet, and they recommend at least a 20-foot separation, a minimum. So none of this houses in city of McCall will be over that, because we allow 7-foot easements. So that's always going to be a higher risk, right? Because it gives you more points when you have that less. Mine's black. Since
But mine is not
2018.
done. What about, you could go to Cascade?
That was 2011.
I'm like,
Well, so they started the creation in 2011, and they took it until 2018, right before COVID. Once COVID came, it was really hard to send assessors out to individual parcels, right? Because you do have that one-on-one engagement with the landowner.
and I'm a high hazard.
And so that's one thing that's nice too, is when I go out and do an assessment, because I did 250 last year, I bring this on my my dashboard on my iPad and show them some things that they can work on. I can update their assessment as I'm doing the assessment too. So that triggers a lot of questions and different funding aspects too.
Do you think insurance companies look at this?
No, they don't.
They can't get to it.
They can't get to it.
Would have thought Crown Point would have been a higher risk.
After driving through it today.
Yeah.
My lord.
They're not allowed to use this data to determine their assessment.
Legally, they're not allowed to use any kind of modeling besides their own. So that's why they have a third party to do their own
I see.
assessment.
That's why they've never asked for it.
That's a good thing,
Yeah.
because that looks ugly.
Well, the problem with their modeling too is they're doing satellite modeling with insurance, and so all of our grants do understory, right? So we're reducing those ladder fuels so that if a fire started on the ground, it doesn't get into the canopy. But sometimes those treatments don't impact that overstory, and so even if I've spent money on a certain area, they're only assessing that big, thick canopy, but their fire risk might have been reduced because of just doing the understory, and they can't see that sometimes. So there's some marks that are being missed because of those aspects. And I know that, like I said, I know there's discussions back about some of that stuff.
So are you, I mean, when say I'm a homeowner, you come in and say, okay, I can do all this work with understory and get it up to 10 foot and all that. But do those people that you're doing the work for, like me, we have a lot of overstory. Are you letting them know this isn't affecting your insurance at all? Like what we
And
do?
I don't know that either, though, right? And so that's part of it. Is I don't know,
Well, we can't allude that it does.
and that's I don't do that. I say
Okay.
that it can help, and so I write a scope of work of treatment that they've approved on their property so that they can provide that back to insurance. But even the scope of work that I accomplish for Valley County still sometimes, depending on the brush component, can last 3 to 5 years. So there's a maintenance that they're required to uphold for at least 10 years. And so that does help because it's showing that their commitment to fuels reduction for at least 10 years of owning that structure. And so insurance has definitely accepted that. But I don't know whether my job that I'm doing is going to allow them to get insurance. I never promise that. I just say it may help because there's different aspects that you can provide to. Because there's before and after photos. There's during photos. I even go back a year to 2 years later and take some different photos so that you can see the fuel and the vegetation that has regrown. So then they have that to be provided as well.
Okay. Cool.
But the plan for this was also to include other things, and maybe Juan can kind of talk on some of that. Because right now it's primarily focused on wildfire risk. But this tool really could be a huge help for all hazard managements, and helping really the fire departments and even some of the wildland guys when they come to some of these subdivisions to get some forethought, right? It helps them look at here and see that this is really high fire risk, or this one isn't. If they had like a smoke report or a flood or an avalanche, it's showing that this subdivision did some sort of treatment. And so I think that's pretty critical to be able to upkeep and even expand on if we find the right tools and the need for it.
How do we use this in our planning and zoning and land use? I mean, when a developer brings in an application, how can we use this type of a tool to say you're already in a very high extreme fire area? And I know that we're working on some change in ordinance for some of these areas, but you know, how do we use this as a tool to help a developer plan on their wildfire mitigation plan, if you will? Yes.
So this is one of two maps. So with this hazard assessment, actually it's gonna be one of three maps.
Push that microphone over closer so
So-
you're sharing that.
This map here deals with the structures. The next map is gonna deal with the Valley County Fire Working Groups updated and reviewed hazard assessment for the whole county. And then there'll be polygons or sections that'll be the same rated with all those colors. Then they'll be associated with the third map, which is the evacuation zones. So, utilizing those three maps, when a developer comes in and says, I want to do a subdivision on said parcel, they can use those three maps to determine one, what zone they're in, what their hazard rating is for possible structures or structures that are already there or surrounding, and then the hazard assessment from the firework. So utilizing that is what we use to create those zones, like we said, that if you're gonna build in zone whatever nomenclature, you're at already a high hazard, so this is the new subdivision ordinance protocols based on wildland urban interface code, whatever year. You have to meet these requirements for your structures. And then by fire code, you have to meet these because of the assessments. Maybe more than just ingress, egress, water values for fire suppression, road widths, whatever, will come into play. And that's how we're basing that off of. Utilizing the subdivision ordinance. So this is just one of the three maps that we will be overlaying each other to show the developer when they come in and say, I want to build here. So we can try to determine and help those individuals and then help us create a better resilient community to potential member buildup, which is the loss of homes. So,
Other counties are very interested in this one.
well,
The reporters are now picking it up from some of the news media and reaching out. Oh yeah.
there's a few that Boise Devs called me a few times, and I told them it's too early for me to answer any questions at this time. We'll have more as we move forward because I know we're working towards getting the maps completed and then the messaging completed. How we're gonna associate each of the maps together in collaboration. So once that happens, then we can have those conversations with outreach people.
Idaho Association of Counties might be interested in this as far as some type of a class. Commissioners should take too.
I've also been asked to speak at the next preparedness conference. So I'm hoping to have it all in place so that I can have a good presentation. And our adjacent counties are looking at what we're doing too with these particular maps as well, because they want to make sure they're doing something that's similar, if not the same, as what we're doing now, so that it's all congruent no matter where the lines are. And again, FEMA Region 10 has seen this, and they really like the fact of the applications it has, not only for hazard assessment and mitigation efforts, but in the event of incidents is how it's being able to utilize that from single resource to complex multi-resource incidents. So there's a lot, when we built this thing, it was a specific point, but then after we built it, we realized there's many different facets we can reach just utilizing the data that was created to help all levels and functionalities throughout the
Helps make decisions faster too when you're in a hazardous incident, wildfire emergency. Pull up the dashboard and see what's going on out there. Have a lot of structures in one spot, but don't really know the area, especially if you're not from this area. A lot of situational awareness before actually being on the ground, which is critical.
The fly in here is an emergency. Take care of it, please.
And with this data, when you're looking at an incident, the continued update of the data really helps those teams in understanding of what's on the ground, and then it makes their assessments much faster, so they can come up with better action items as they're coming up with their work periods on what to accomplish based on what's on the ground already. So this is a huge step right here that we've been able to accomplish of getting the portal because of it being so accessible and being able to utilize it. very rapidly, to the point now with me being able to go in and get that data that I need for assessments. It limits the amount of time I need to spend at the county having the assessor do specific data because it's already at my fingertips. I can just pull it up right there and get the data as I'm talking to the ops chief and saying, here it is right here. Here's the SanDisk. Put it in your fire map, and then we just blow it up right there. We can look at it within minutes rather than we're gonna break down from like an hour or two to like 20 minutes, or even sooner because we can start looking at the map right away. It's way beneficial to have it this accessible, which has always been the goal of mine to make it more accessible than it has been in the past. So we can get that data out quickly, especially when we have fire the way it moves today and so rapid with our constant and wind pattern.
That's huge. Talking to Sue about how much Vaughn was really in with the assessor a lot to get a lot of these data points, and so that did take away from her employees doing other tasks because it was an emergency event that they had to get a lot of these data points. Now Vaughn can literally do them himself while he's down there at the incident campus or ask me. So it's saving tremendous amount of time for just that office alone. Which they might miss one.
I'm sure he'll stop and say hi.
I'll still ask for some stuff. might make sense, but and one thing too is we've been very fortunate with when we do get the assistant grants during incidents. So those updates that they need, this is just it's more relative because I can give better updates based on the topography and where we're at as the incident's moving through our county. To show the viability of why we continue to need those federal assets and resources and dollars. So that's a big thing. And Four Corners was a huge success in the fact that I was able to keep that from day one to when close out of the fire, which I think I'm the only one in the last 20 years who's been able to do that. So it not only helps us, but it also helps the state and Department of Lands with their funding mechanism sources during there. So I think with this we got a good viable too. It's since the inception of this and development of it and implementing it, every day it's grown to this, and I think just in itself proves the validity and the need for it in the county and why we need to determine how we're going to continue to update those assessments as we move through, because it is viable information. They know about it nationwide. I've talked about this in DC with the U.S. Forest Service, and they really like the fact that a county of our stature with limited funding is able to accomplish such a thing at such a low cost, really, when you look at what other counties and states are paying for theirs. And then the maintained cost is actually, we don't know for sure what that is, but so it's going to be relatively low to the national average of what it takes because we're pretty conservative how we do things here, and we're able to put a good product out. My thing is I'm really super excited. Like I said, I can't get over the accessibility of it because that's been what's been cumbersome over the inception of this, is because of the program we built. It wasn't very user friendly, so we didn't get any participation from any of the stakeholder agencies, but we have stakeholder agencies that are really interested in it, and those are our local groups. So and then like Southern Idaho Timber actually helped with the development of this one, so they're a key player in this, and the other fire district chiefs are a key player in this. So we want to maintain that access that they need. And then one thing is that I don't know if Maura brought this up, but when we look at providing access to this, it is beneficial that we're the ones that say, they come to us and say we need access, and then we can determine why they would need access and then how we would get that to them. So we need to develop a protocol system for that, because there is some information there, because it is attached to specific things within the county. So we would have to build a protocol program how that would work, and then we would follow that every time you're needing to add someone to have access to this information, and and how they're going to utilize it. So that would be the next step is in the process, see somewhere where we have to use the prosecuting attorney's office to build those protocols, and then see whatever our IT and cybersecurity guy says we need for those protocols, and make sure they're in place in an actual document, so that every time we're asking for those things, we're doing it the right steps, so that we don't miss out and someone gets access that shouldn't, or we're not able to give somebody access, or it takes too long based on policies.
Looking at the total dwelling value down there at 8 billion. So last year we were like at 11 billion, weren't we, Doug, when we did the budget? So is the rest of that just land?
Well, it just hasn't been
value or
updated
just
yet, and it might just be specific to the dwelling, not the specific
somebody
properties
about
surrounding, so
land
it's just,
value is not in that.
So all those black dots haven't even been assessed.
And so basically this is for dwellings and residents.
So
That's
if
what we're
some
assessing specifically.
people won't know if they're a black dot or red dot. So how does somebody reach out and go, hey, I'd like to have an assessment done? Do they reach out to you or to the local fire departments
Both.
or?
right now it's both.
Yep.
And when we're out and about, the fire marshals, and they're out and about when they're doing the assessment stuff, we've done it in the past. Generally, when we start doing assessments, the neighbors or everybody start talking about it, so then we get called out back there. Or at the same time, they're doing, says, hey, can you assess mine? I don't know if it's been assessed. They could look it up and assess then as well. And then we'll have specific areas this year, once we get going and have the portal in place for them to start doing the surveys. When they're going out, they'll have specific key areas, so that when they're doing their regular everyday job of fire marshal, they say, oh, here's a particular area I can hit this block of homes or whatever while I'm out here.
Hmm.
Start assessing those and trying to assess all those black dot areas as we go. And they're going to keep track of how much time that they take on that, so we can determine a better value of, okay, to do an assessment from these particular types of homes, here's what about the time takes. Then we can determine a better budget program for future assessments and how we're going to get those. What's the fiscal note going to be to accomplish that in the future?
In the past, Title III funded this, and as we know, Title III is unknown. So this year, we're just trying to get a future plan put together to see how we can keep this updated specifically, right? The more assessments that we have in each parcel that we assess, the more situational awareness we have as a county in a certain area. If it's not assessed, we'll get to it at some point. So that's also part of the caveat is looking for funding to help get this updated and also keep it updated after that too.
Has there ever been a ask of our congressionals if there is anything that this could work out at the federal level to see if there's federal funding for some of this?
So I asked multiple times in my time in DC, and it was always back to that local level type funding. We even went to Google to see if there was like a funding mechanism, so that if counties or like us were to do this and provide better, accurate addressing, is there some way we could recoup some of those costs selling that data to Google? Google was like, no, we have this new program come out, which they've started to roll out now, that gives better addressing sites, so they were willing to pay. But we did try different aspects to try and get funding mechanisms, because it wasn't just, at that point, it wasn't just about us anymore. It was about how do we get our adjacent counties or our state to follow the same type of model, so that it's more, because we just saw a viable tool there that everybody could utilize in some fashion. One part of the collaboration too is that's different from when we initially started this project is with the fire working group and some key members of the local emergency planning committee. They really put a lot of input in this second round of updating and getting the portal set up, and taking a lot of that information from them and what they would like to see, or how it could be even essential to them. So fire working group has been an essential part of the product.
So do you think this component will be a very useful tool for, say, a fire cook's called in at this structure to help you guys in any way? Will that tool will help you on just a structure fire?
Yeah, so it's a single resource. So single C resource means like my engine goes out with the crew. We can use the information base that we have already. They can pull that up. We're gonna make it so they can pull that particular home up. It'll give ingress, egress. They'll be able to, once we get the hydrants on, be able to see where the closest hydrants or water sources are, whether it be tank, water source that's a pond or lake or whatever, and then the hydrants, and then just give a basic overall, like what's the house assessed at, like it's a high risk house.
So if vegetation's
Sure,
close.
yeah, those types of things. They'll be able to look at those things. Like as the captain's rolling up, he can pull that screen up and just start getting a better idea to do that
Have a quick turn around.
situational awareness as they move into that particular area.
Will you ever put on this one if there's like a senior living at that home or somebody on oxygen or something?
Yeah, so that is something we've talked about, but I will tell you that we sort of stayed away from that just to get this built. But in doing so, the fire districts have moved into a new system for reporting. It's called First Do, and there is a community page on First Do that allows people to sign up by each of the fire districts and throughout the county as the EMS district. So if they have special needs or language barriers or those types of things, they can voluntarily sign up and it'll start marking it as the CAD system gets through, not necessarily on this particular portal, but the CAD portal, and tell us that there's a specific thing. We can click that button and it'll tell us what other aid will be. So we sort of steered away from putting it on this for now to see what that program's going to look like as we're building the First Do, which we're currently rolling out right now. And transitioning from our old program to the new program county-wide. And that's EMS and the 3 fire districts.
That's cool. Like it.
The great part is the collaboration between each of the maps. We've never done that before, and we'll be able to utilize it to help Cinda and her efforts. We can really, I think we're going to really have in our populous areas and our outside populous areas, we'll be able to determine as people, we start to build out in those areas that aren't built, what types of risk associated with those, and then we can get them zoned properly right off the forefront, and then get the right types of building materials and community resiliency for better adaptive fire mitigation. So it's an effort that can just continue on and continue on based on just the basis of the 3 maps that we're building, and the utilization of the portal with its data that's already set.
And located all in spot. Currently, we have stuff that's located in all different spots. Now everything's going to be all housed within the county from facility portal, which is huge. Huge when we have some of these big incidents.
This is for our fire and emergency, but this will never be a public portal where they'll be able to see it here. But like you can check your fire rating already. What's the other portal that we have? The hazard.
So there's a couple other portals associated with the hazard assessment portal that BSU did. And then there's a couple links on there that'll get you to, I can't remember the name now, but what it does is it gives an overall picture by state and then county and then actual individual cities, so they can determines your percentage of risk. So those are in the links to that as well.
Those are all your fire zones that you guys created.
These are scary looking at that.
And you got to remember that when you look at those particular, I wish I could remember the name of the site, but when you look at that particular site, overall as a county, we're at 97% of probability for fire every year. Specific to specific parts of the community, we're up to 98% of probable wildfire throughout the entire county. There isn't a spot on the county that isn't in the high probability range. And that's specific to, and this is it here. So it's specific to, and this will tell you how many homes could be affected. It goes off by algorithms of amber load, which means because of our current wind patterns, amber load to specific areas will allow the fire paths to grow. We're utilizing this data along with the land tender that's been we get to use for the next 3 years to determine those paths. And then as we're going the next 3 years with that program and utilizing these particular models here, we'll determine as we do specific mitigation work, what's the percentage that we're able to lower that probability in those specific high-risk areas, and then pick areas based on the algorithms we choose for the types of vegetations and those types of things as we move through utilizing those as well. And the mobile risk assessment just plays a part in that because now we get to throw structures as a layer and determine, because anytime there's structures, it makes the probability even higher.
Great job. Very excited about the way the county is focusing on wildfire hazards. I mean, obviously with a 97, 98% wildfire risk, it's a huge part of our economy, huge part of this, our health and safety that we're here to provide for our community. So anything we can do to make sure that this continues, moves forward is really, in my opinion.
So I guess one of the key points in my summation is we need to develop those protocols and how we would get people to access it and make sure that goes through both our offices.
So who's gonna work on that?
We'll work on that with the prosecuting attorney, and then we'll make sure you guys get something soon.
Awesome.
Because I know there's some people we need to get on there sooner rather than later.
We should probably pass it as an ordinance within the county so that it's documented and codified. That way it can't be changed easily, and the commissioners have bought off on that. That's how you guys, it kind of covers you guys too, saying, sorry, commissioners won't allow us to do that.
That's a great tool. Great tool. So
There
what's
is
the,
going to be an annual cost, and we'll have that discussion in a couple weeks as well.
Well, and hopefully we'll know something. Bill
like-
ever gets passed. See if we're still in
like
it
our
or
whole
not.
county's on fire there, Juan.
He's gonna look at as not on fire, the probability of fire.
The risk of,
Yeah, it's always the risk of.
and probably the yellow areas are the ones that just burnt. So therefore. All right, thank you for that update. You guys have any other questions before we take these guys out of here? Okay. Is there anything you
good.
need from us? Great.
See you in like 4 minutes.
We can just carry on if you want.
Okay.
Next is our budget meeting with our emergency services manager.
Chairman,
Agreement
Commissioners, and I apologize. I just sent out a draft agreement for the commissioners to review. Basically, it's identical from the one that was approved this year. The only change is the proposal for a 3% increase, as I indicated this morning. This is just an opportunity for Juan to present to the commissioners and kind of give you his perspective of the existing agreement and request any type of modifications, but it's his opportunity to present to the commissioners at this time.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. So a couple things before we get into that in the contract. So every Monday I get to have my meeting with the state to determine the potential of the allocation of funding that's already been allocated in the emergency management grant, which is the EMPG for this year, 2024, and then 2025, and what's the potential for that. So currently, they're stating that the $12,715.71 of reimbursement from the federal government for this year's budget is still unknown, and the reallocation of the grant for next year is still unknown. Now, it is on the current bill that is going through Congress right now, but that particular section for the emergency management has been put in a different category of discussion because the executive branch administration is asking why that's still in there at all, because the executive branch administration, the president, would like that it be covered. Those those particular costs be covered by the state and no longer federal dollars. So that is the current debate as of today. So we're at an unknown for that. So looking at the budgets, it would be roughly at around $12,000 to $14,000, depending on those costs that may or may not be able to be recouped for this year or next year.
So what is the state saying if that is taken from the feds to the state? Is the state creating a funding pool or?
They have no answer to that until they get any answers from the feds first. They haven't released any information on how that would move forward as of today. So I would not want to speculate on what that could be. With that, talking about our current contract, I have no issues with the contract being the same as it was last year, with the exception of changing the rate at a 3% higher annually for the year. I will say that with that, our cost for emergency management is relatively low based on the amount of time I have in the network and I've been able to create in my career. So I think it's warranted, and I think that as we move forward with this position, we need to look at, I need to continue to move forward a lot of the things that are still as projects that I have in place. So I would think that it's viable language moving forward. I think it meets all the standards of what my roles and responsibilities are as of today. I will tell you that I probably, if I were to add all of the things that I'm doing today, it would probably be about a 10-page document because it's well over the roles and responsibilities. But that's just because I've always done that. And I'm still trying to build that office to whenever it needs to be. So I think we're well suited the way we are. I think the collaboration efforts with the emergency management office is pretty pristine when you look at statewide. And even I would say on most national levels of what we've been able to accomplish within the emergency management office and the collaboration throughout the county and the state and national FEMA and other avenues of organizations nationally. So with
Juan,
that,
your fire board is still okay with you doing this?
yes. So they ask me every year. They asked me a lot this year after the fire. I think my biggest naysayers were my grandkids because they missed a lot of time with Grandpa, especially when hunting season came around. They were like, "We're not going to get anything until you come hunt with us." So, but other than that, it was okay. They understand. Family has been doing this for a while, so. But the way my commissioners see it when we have those conversations is it benefits the district, it benefits the fire districts as well as the EMS district, and it benefits the county having me in this position. I already have to make most of those meetings anyway, or would because of the projects I have and want to continue building. So I'm already there doing the job.
Oh, good. We don't have to pay you then. You knew I was going to say that, didn't you?
So that's why I think it's pretty viable. And you know, it's $30,000 a year I think in total. I don't even really know. I didn't do the math this time, but I think it's pretty good bang for your buck. I think I've been able to prove that over the years as emergency manager. I was pretty much emergency manager before I was emergency manager because all the fires and major incidents were somehow happening in my district. So I'd been participating at a higher level. From a month after becoming chief, I was already doing higher level emergency management and complex incidents for the county. So, and I go to other counties as well because I've been able, based on all of my leadership, not just this one, but my other leadership as well. They've been allowed me the autonomy to grow my networking. So,
I would agree that having a fire manager is critical for our county. I mean, we will always have fires. We'll always have emergencies just because of our geographical location. So whether we're reimbursed or not, it's super critical that we fund this position. We will have to figure out how to do that, within the budget. Make sure that we cover the costs. It's great when we're reimbursed, those funds can go elsewhere and be used for other things. So I think we should always try and push for the reimbursement, but it is super critical that we continue this position and definitely support you moving forward.
I appreciate that.
Make sure we have the funding around to do that. So.
I've always told you, ma'am, that I'll be your emergency manager as long as you want me to be.
Until your grandkids say no, no more. My grandkids are starting to say that too, Juan. All right. Have you put this into the prosecuting attorney's office to update this contract? No,
Yeah,
you'll
we'll
be doing that.
Yeah, Madam Chairman, Commissioners will be doing that. I just wanted to, again, budget workshop, have the opportunity for Juan to present to the Commissioners. His existing contract doesn't expire, but will be expiring. So, make sure that we process this through our legal department for review.
This was the one that's a shortened contract, right? Or do we finally get it?
Correct.
So we'll be on budget year end now. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you so much for your continued support.
You bet.
Yeah, thanks, Juan.
All right, next up is, we've got a few minutes. Doug, do we need to wait?
That's
Is our
your
budget
call, Madam
workshop?
Chairman. It is
I
just a
think we'll go
budget
ahead.
workshop and
I think we'll go ahead and move forward. Jamie, we don't need her sitting around. So up next is a budget workshop with our veteran service officer.
And Madam Chairman, Commissioners, I do apologize, but the existing contract was just emailed out for the Commissioners to review without any type of modifications at this point in time. I just wanted to allow you guys to have something to reference. I thought it was included in the packet, but it wasn't. You should have it before you know.
Amy, you can use the microphone there or come up to the table, whichever you prefer.
I'm used to being here.
Okay.
I wanted to talk to you guys about a little bit of an increase, if possible, for next year for 2026. As you know, I'm trying to do more and more for the veterans of Valley County. As I go forward, I understand that. I guess part of my question in this is how much do you guys? I'd go all in. I mean, obviously. But I guess how much are you guys wanting to put into this? So I put in a lot of volunteer time, which I don't count towards this, just because, for instance, I did the stand down this last winter, which was a huge success. We had 30 veterans come in. We got them some food and cold weather clothes that they were kind of lacking going into that last part of the winter. And regardless of what comes out today, we're doing another one on Veterans Day weekend, not Veterans Day because it'll get in the way of some other things. And so these are things that I feel like are important to the community, things that are needed for some of the veterans in here. I tried to kind of figure out, how many, there's really no way to say how many hours, there's not a how many hours per veteran or how many hours per city or how many hours because I get calls, I'm not good with boundaries. I get calls weekends, weekdays. I get calls from, every now and again, other agencies that say, hey, we've got a veteran in crisis. And just because of who I am and what I do, I'll usually take the call or I'll go, do whatever needs to be done. So obviously, I could come here and say, I could probably do a part-time job for you guys, but not looking for that. So,
And because you do work in your own, sphere, and we really we're not touched by that. I have no idea how much time you are spending with this, or what
right.
we're missing. If we said, we're willing to increase this, what extras can you provide to our veterans? I think all of us up here are very supportive of our veteran community and want to make sure they have the services they need.
So to kind of give you an idea of where it was when I first took over, the veteran service officer before me, his job was basically, so once a month, the service officer from Boise, the state service officer, comes up. He has 3 slots to meet with veterans, to talk about benefits, to file claims, or whatever that veteran needs. And Mike was knowledgeable. He'd been doing it for I think 10 years before that, so he was very knowledgeable. But he didn't like the computer.
Yeah, technology was not his friend.
Technology was not his friend. Very knowledgeable, but everything was done during that 3-hour time when the service officer came up. So he would schedule the times, and then he would kind of talk with him a little bit and say, bring this, bring this, bring this. And then Jim would come up, he's our state guy, would come up, and they would work on the claims. And then, so we would get 3 veterans, if they could really squeeze it in, 4 veterans done a month, working on the claims. And then sometimes the veterans would come back at one of Jim's next appointments because the paperwork they didn't have the paperwork or whatever the case may be. But there was a lot of back and forth. And he was getting $200 a month, which he was like, this is great. When I first took over and kind of found out exactly, he asked me, he said, Jamie, can you do this? I'm like, absolutely, I'd love to do this. And I found out what he was doing. In the first couple months, I would watch this interaction of just scheduling the time with Jim. And I finally said, Jim, if all you're doing is uploading it into this VetraSpec system, I can do that. I'm like, I can scan, the veterans bring me all their documents. I can scan it, upload it. You can have the claim done before we even meet with the veteran. He can go in, because obviously the veteran has to give permission for Jim to get into their record for the VA. So the very first thing that happens is the veteran has to sign permission, making him the veteran service officer. And so sometimes that's all they would get done at that meeting here.
Oh man.
And so they would wait, sometimes 2 or 3 months if there was 6, 8, 10 people on the list for that first signature.
Oh my goodness.
It was terrible. They had the opportunity. They could have gone down to Boise to sign that piece of paper, but that's ridiculous too. So I'm able to do that. I'm able to either go to the veteran's house and say, here's my computer, sign it like a tablet. It uploads into the VetraSpec system, which is the state system. That gives Jim access to the VA file. And then Jim calls me back and he says, this is what the veteran has. This is, what we can do for them. What is it the veteran needs? And then I'm sitting there with the veteran still, and we can start that claim process right there that day without having to wait that time period. I get a lot of calls, and that's the claim process, right? So then there are some of them where Jim is just, he's been doing it for a long time. The state veteran, there's a reason they're there. They're very knowledgeable on some of the claims that I don't deal with very often. Some of the easier claims I can have done and filed, long before we ever see Jim again next month. So therefore, that veteran didn't even have to take one of those slots because we're done. It's already filed. It's not a problem. Sometimes we do have to have them come in and talk to Jim because there'll be some questions about, for instance, we just had a Navy claim. If we have to research as to whether or not their ship made it within 12 nautical miles of Vietnam.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that means we have to, right? So there's all these fun little websites out there that can show the actual track of where all these ships went. It's crazy. I didn't know they did that. But, and that way, because if the ship is within 12 nautical miles, then we can do an Agent Orange claim. If it's outside of 12 nautical miles, right? So there's a lot of research. And when you get some of these Vietnam vets, they're like, I don't know, how do you find that out?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's okay. That's something I can do. I know how to do it. But again, that's a lot of time on my part, looking it up and trying to figure out, can we file a claim for that?
So what are you
there's-
proposing for a new budget?
So I put in the total was 96 hours for that stand down, which is a lot. And but so worth it. Currently, right now, I'm getting $800 a month, and because I'm a brand new business person, you guys made me start this business in order to do this. I didn't realize that there's this thing called payroll tax.
Oh,
Who knew? Your employers pay those, right?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so that hit me pretty hard, not knowing that that was on top of everything else. And that's my bad. I didn't know that when I put in my budget for the first time to do that last year. And also, I want to find out, and I was hoping he would still be here.
Oh.
So, this county is requiring me to have workers' comp insurance. I'm a single member LLC. I don't have any employees, and even my insurance is like, you're
I don't
wasting
think-
your money giving us money for workers' comp when you don't have any employees and you're a single member LLC.
I
Is
don't-
that you
yeah, I
can't even file on that workers' comp claim because you're the owner.
I think we can negate that.
That
Because
is,
that
is
would
correct.
save a little bit of money, because then currently I'm having to hold two different policies, actually three, because there's a workers' comp, there's a business for the county, and then I have to have my business for social work, which I know you guys don't care about, but that one covers my business. But what I can't do is get workers' comp under that policy. So right now I'm paying three different policies just because the county requires workers' comp. It's kind of like, ugh. So that would help me reduce some costs as well if we could get rid of the workers' comp, which is, I can't use it anyhow. So
I think we can do that.
I was told it was
Run
part
it
of the,
by-
in order to get a county contract, you had to have it. So I
Run it
was
by
like,
legal.
okay.
There's not a good reason. We've done this before with another
Oh,
situation,
perfect.
so.
Okay, so what I'm asking is to increase it to $1,000 versus 800. I feel like that would. I'm still going to have a lot of volunteer time in there, but I think that is partly because I just do it. But I think going up to $1,000, that's going to help me with the payroll taxes, and then also the increase just for the extra time that I am putting into it. You know, there's a lot of different things that I would still be, I just feel like, you know, I do get a lot of calls for veterans that I do kind of have to, or I'll get calls from the ERs with you know, the other social workers. They're like, hey, we know you're a social worker and this. And I'm like, okay. So, I mean, truly, I think this could be a part-time position. For someone in the county. I don't think it can be more than that, and I'm not necessarily looking for that level. But I think if we could bring it up to 1,000, I feel like that would be fair, because that would help cover my increases for payroll taxes as well as just the time that I'm. And if we can get that workers' comp dropped off, that would help with making me feel like that's a little bit more fair.
Shouldn't be an issue on that.
Okay.
I'm starting an email as we speak.
Yay.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was that's the biggest thing. Other than that is, you know, when we do this on Veterans Day weekend, I'd love to have you guys come out if you want to, even if it's just to come see what we're doing. And
I was out of town last time.
I know everybody was out of town. I was like, man, but it was
Yeah.
short notice, so
Oh, yes.
I didn't think about inviting people. It was going to be cold.
Jamie, I got a question. Is Post 60, is that the
An increase
McCall
to
Post?
1,000 a month.
Post 60 is here in Cascade.
So is the McCall Post defunct, right? As we know?
No, technically they have as many officers as they're required to have, but they're not very. I mean, I think they meet a couple times a year.
Times a year.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, they're meeting their minimum requirement to maintain the post for the American Legion. So
Right.
that's basically what they're doing. They've lost so many members that it's
Okay.
hard. We're trying to kind of get them beefed up a little bit because part of what I'm doing is just trying to get veterans into that veteran community.
Right.
We're doing
And
a big veteran ride this weekend.
So you deal with all the veterans in Valley County.
In Valley County, yes. Yep. We had 2 veterans come out of Yellow Pine to come to our stand down, and one of the guys picked up for another one that was in there. So technically 3 from Yellow Pine, which I was like, yes. I
Awesome.
didn't think in the winter I was going to get any of the Yellow Piners, but yeah, that was good. So as the service officer, yes, I'm up in McCall. And to be honest, Adams County, their service officer doesn't really go up to New Meadows. So I'll jump over there just because it's right there.
So do you ever do the fun runs with the veterans up there at the Francie Wallace every year?
I don't have a snow machine.
You don't have a snow machine?
I don't. No.
Ah,
Better lend her yours.
I
Yeah.
sold mine last year.
Oh.
I did.
Yeah. No, I'm big on the 4-wheeler stuff, but no, I don't have a snow machine.
Okay.
I don't want to get stuck out in the snow.
You might tell McCall that we are going to do our grants a little bit differently this year. So
Okay.
if there is a project that they're doing, a proposal where they need funding, they can actually submit for a little bit of funding.
Great.
We do support
I can help them
auxiliary
out.
down here, so.
That's great. Yeah. So yeah, working with them up there, it's a little bit difficult. Just, I mean, they just, I don't know, a couple months ago had their new membership, where their leaders were, and
Who's
it just
the-
kind of was one of those look around the room. Are you gonna be the commander this year?
Who's the commander up there?
I knew you were gonna ask me that, and I don't remember his name off the top of my head. Real tall guy, but yeah, I don't know him very well. I met him at that meeting, so.
All right. Thank
So,
you.
Yep, that's where I'm
Always
at.
good
so-
seeing you.
Yeah, good to see you guys too, and I'll let you know, give you the exact information on when that veteran stand down's gonna be.
Madam Chairman, may I ask a question?
Mhm.
We budgeted $1,000 for training. Is that going to be sufficient for next fiscal year as well?
I thought it was 570 for training last year.
We had 1,000 budgeted
Did we for the service officer training?
for correct for veteran services officer training. We had $1,000 budgeted. That was-
Yeah, that's more than I'm gonna need. I know that
That
the
includes,
the
my
hotel-
apologies for interrupting you. That
Okay.
includes registration fees, travel costs, hotels.
so travel and hotel are the only two that they don't cover. There is no registration fee, but travel and hotel. I know the hotel room went up this year. I don't have a price on it yet because they're just now putting it all together. But they told us, be prepared, your hotel room is going to go up. So I don't think I need more than 600. I thought we did 570 last year, or maybe I figured out what the total cost was last year.
We budgeted 1,000, yeah, so.
Okay.
If that's.
And it could have been like this one where I didn't know all the costs this far out.
If we can reduce it, or if there is a capability of reducing it.
Do we want to leave it at 1,000?
Yeah, I would say 600 is
600?
probably
Okay.
more than enough for that
Thank
for
you.
that training. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Thank you.
Thanks, Jamie.
Thank you,
All right.
Jamie.
You guys take care.
Appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Yes. Can we take a quick break?
Yes, let's take a 5-minute break before we get started on the next. everyone.
Madam Chairman, we're back.
Welcome back to our afternoon session. It's the 2:30 lake irrigation presentation related to the proposed conservation project. Thank you for coming in, having a conversation with us. I know there's been a lot of conversation out in the community right now.
Well, I guess I've been chosen to talk, so I hope you guys got the stuff that Shirley sent.
Yes,
Did you have a chance to go over it?
we did. Yep.
I guess that basically the thing would save a ton of water, and it would save the county quite a bit of maintenance in the long run. It goes probably along nearly 2 miles of county road that's subbing pretty bad.
I guess that was my question on this whole thing. So we did have community members reaching out saying county right of way is being used, and that's why there was a public hearing scheduled for today. So if somebody within the county wanted to come in and have a conversation with us, we allow them to do that.
Uh-huh.
And there's this much right of way being utilized. I did see, you guys sent a lot of the legal requirements, and that's great, but this is in a county right of way also. That was my question for you, because it made it appear like you guys were using your existing easements.
On the map, you'll see where we were talking about to get away from some of the more sensitive areas. We tried to make we tried to make people happy was our idea, or to make them deal with, it's why we wanted to go along Easy Street,
Okay.
to stay out of it. It was a little bit sensitive area and kind of almost in backyards.
Map. Do you guys remember a map being part of our stuff?
I have a map here if you can blow it up. I don't know if you can read it.
This is the one that's going.
Down Carefree. Got all the statutes. Yeah, I'd like to see the map. Bring that up. I'm not seeing that we got your map, so.
Basically, where it follows Easy Street.
So you're wanting to go this way,
Yeah, that's
okay? And then this is what?
existing.
This is existing, okay. Okay.
Be interesting.
There's the map.
You're taking it out,
Perfect.
pretty much taking it out of the subdivision, and taking it out of the streets. What you're doing.
Yeah, just to keep it, basically, there's a few home sites and quite a few little lots. It would eliminate that one.
Makes sense. Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry, I didn't ask you to state your name and the town in which you live either for the record.
My name's Will Mackey and I live at Lake Fork. If that's called a town anymore.
So Will, as far as, did you find resistance to the community for using Easy Street versus taking it out of their yards? I mean,
In the
Easy-
beginning, they were all for it. We find resistance of any change, not so much the Easy Street.
Welcome to our world.
Yeah, no, not so much the Easy Street thing, just anything that, well, it's like a lot of things. If you're getting something for free and then it might go away. Most of the people up in that area that it goes through have no water rights.
And are they using them right now? I mean, do they have pumps in the ditch? Is that?
They don't have pumps, but they'll back it up at times, and it's a problem anymore.
What I thought was interesting was you'll be removing less from the creek, more stays in the creek to improve the water quality of the lake. And that's all what we're trying to accomplish.
That's where we've got the backing on some of the funding for this because of things like that. And well, there's 97 people that would get water out of this. that have water rights out of it.
Okay.
And
Are they not currently getting their water share? Is there not enough water getting through to honor those
at
water
times,
shares?
it all depends on the situation. Last Friday morning, we had a ton of water. I'm clear at the very end of it. Had a lot of water. Last Friday night, had no water. And it's not uncommon.
Okay.
So the black circles, are those pump stations?
They're I believe they're elevations that the engineers have. There's no pump
No pumps.
stations. No. Oh, excuse me. We'll talk.
That makes
I don't
sense
know.
because it says TO. Takeout would make sense.
There we go.
What?
A takeout would make sense because
You
it's
sure you
titled
wanna
TO.
Right? Oh, I see.
Just tell
Yeah.
people when I'm done.
So what you're recommending right now then is Plan C.
Is that where we're at on? Guys? Yeah, the easiest. Plan C or B. We're not positive.
Okay.
But
And then-
basically, what we're here for is to try to get if we could get an easement or get to use the or the space down Easy Street.
Oh, the easement down Easy Street.
Yeah.
I think there might be some concerns from people that have plantings in that. That's what we usually find if somebody's in the right of way, may have planted within that right of way. Have you seen that at all?
There's not very much in that one
Okay.
that we've noticed. Have you? Yeah. I mean, it's fairly open at this time. I mean, we've been working on this since 2014, and
Oh my goodness.
it's not getting easier.
10 years.
Yeah, what has been the major concerns? I don't really care about as far as
For
the
us
project
getting it
overall,
together and
it's
getting the
just
funding lined up and getting, you know,
major concerns from the community using our right of way. That's the only thing we have that we can
haven't.
address is the
Have
right
we
of way.
had any concerns about the right of way? Except for they just don't want it. You know, I mean, there's certain people that were supported it when we get it out of their yard, but now it doesn't matter where we
What I
put
heard
it.
at the last meeting was some people were concerned that we were able to go around their yards, but we couldn't go around everybody's yards. That's the only concern I see right away.
So just for the record, you have an easement wherever you're going to be, and that's on their deeds. That absolutely reflects on a plat that there is an easement here with a right of way on it.
The ditch we have.
For the ditch you have, yes. Yeah. And you're not going outside of that ditch other than using county right of way.
Correct.
For Plan C, if we can get that done, it's using landowners, a small strip where we don't have the right of way. We can get right away from
That's between you and the land.
Yeah, that'd just be a trade deal, basically. Trade a right of way for a right of way. It's not.
So you're just going from 01 to 02, and that's that, you see yellow that you'd be adding?
Yeah, and then the red line through that part would not exist.
That'd be abandoned.
Yeah. It's kind of a natural drainage down through there.
Okay,
Like you've done your
Director,
homework.
Mr. Coons, if you want to come up and answer some questions.
Hi.
So I, just real briefly, went to the meeting. I made a little announcement there that, I'm here on behalf of the county in terms of, all I'm looking at is the issue around within our right of way, and indicated that really all I'm concerned about is it to be as far away from the road as possible, and then it would follow all of our design guidelines. I did not hear any concern from the public in regards to that specific.
And that's really the only thing we have control over. I mean, as far as the public is concerned, the only reason that we are here is to talk about the county right away. And so if there is no concern from our road director that we have concerns with the county right away, that is the only control that we have. That is, you know, the irrigation district has certain rights as far as it is state statute on what they can do. So,
Is this all gonna be a ditch or is that all piped? All be piped.
It's a ditch currently,
Right.
pressured. It'll be a closed
Gravity
pipeline.
I did hear one question that was a recharge of the aquifer in this area. And if you're not taking more water out of the creek and out of the river, doesn't that recharge the aquifer also? I mean, that's,
One would think.
Made sense to us.
And the open canal is still, above this open.
okay. Right, well, you know, we just needed to hear on our county right of way. If you're impacting the county right of way, the public has the right to come in and speak with us. I don't see anybody in the audience that is here to speak on this, so you know, I think that you're good as far as using the county right of way for this project.
We know we need to work with the road department.
Yes, yes, you have to get your permits.
And I think Justin took you, right, didn't he?
I believe Jeff.
Oh, yeah. Down farther.
Thank you for coming in, explaining the situation and letting us just talk about the county right of way. You do have to have a permit in order to do anything, and there's specific requirements, which Mr. Coons will help you make sure that you honor those.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Right, our next appointment is not until 3 o'clock, so.
Do we
Miller,
want
if
to,
you-
we wanna get this resolution out of the way now?
Oh, yes, thank you. We did have a tabled item from this morning. Did we get it?
Mm-hmm.
He sent it in that.
Oh,
Just sent it.
We do have a resolution that we need to approve on our Cascade Annex. Thank you for the reminder, Mr. Thompson.
Dad up here?
Yep. Let's see. All right, do you have it? Do you want to
I can read it if you want.
read that? Yes.
We ready?
Yep.
Okay, resolution 2025-13, Cascade Annex Renovation Resolution. A resolution of Valley County, Idaho that rejects bids from RFP 2025-01 and seeks alternative proposals. Whereas Idaho Code 672805 establishes the process for procurement of public works construction, and whereas Valley County acquired the Valley County Cascade Annex in 2024 and must renovate it for use by various departments, and whereas the Valley County Facilities Department lacks sufficient manning and capacity to conduct the renovation, and whereas the north end of the county courthouse foundation is crumbling, requiring extensive repairs and impacting the ability of the departments located therein to function, and whereas Valley County hired a consultant, Clearwater Financial, to scope the renovations, draw up blueprints, and assist in advertising the request for proposal, RFP, and whereas Valley County advertised the renovation project as RFP 2025-01 in the local newspaper on April 17, 2025 and May 1st, 2025, and on the Valley County website on April 15, 2025. And whereas RFP 2025-01 received only one response, and that bid greatly exceeded the budget allocated for the project. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners feels a sense of urgency to relocate county, up a little bit,
County staff.
where am I at here?
When right above the now it be resolved.
Yeah, there it is. Relocate county staff to new Cascade Annex as soon as possible to avoid further disruption to county operations. Now, therefore, it be resolved by the Valley County Board of Commissioners, Valley County, Idaho, that number one, the sole bid for RFP 2025-01 is rejected. Number two, RFP 2025-01 is canceled and the county will not accept any further bids for this project. Number three, it is impossible to receive 3 bids for the proposed public works procurement. And 4, the county will rescope the Valley County Cascade Annex renovation project to be more affordable. And that's all
One
that's
more.
on the
One
resolution.
more. Keep going.
Another one?
The page.
Page 6. The county will seek alternative proposals from a licensed public works contractor that meets the requirements of Idaho Code 67-2805 to renovate the Cascade Annex. This resolution shall be in full force and effect upon its passage and approval. Adopted this 16th day of June 2025.
Okay. Are there any questions or consideration before we adopt this resolution?
I do not have any. I think Arnie did a good job of, and Brian Oakey, of putting this together for us and keeping us totally legal.
Comments? Questions, concerns? Okay. I would accept a or a motion.
I'll make a motion that we accept the resolution of 2025-13.
I hear a second.
You can second it.
I will second. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Right. So that's out of the way. So now we've got 15 minutes. So
Madam Chairman, I apologize. I don't know if the other matter that was right after that was approved with modified response rate.
yes, we did approve that.
That one was approved this morning. I apologize. Thank
No
you.
worries.
Thank you.
If you want to mute us until 3,
What about getting the resolution signed? I got to bring that to us, or?
I'll print it off, Commissioner Thompson, and we'll bring it up for signature.
Okay.
assign it to Doug to get it on county
I can. Yep, hear you great. Thanks, Doug. Okay, do you need me to hop off? Sorry to interrupt you guys. Okay, sounds great.
We are unmuted, Madam Chair.
Welcome back to our afternoon meeting. Next up is an annual update to our master facilities and comprehensive financial plan. Our Chief Deputy Gabrielle Knapp, take the lead.
So commissioners, thank you for letting us come this afternoon to talk to you about the master facility plan. If you remember, we started this in October of 2023. That's when we adopted the first plan. And then it has been amended once already in 2024. So this is our second amendment, and it is just going to be an addendum attached to the plan. So it's not going to look like the original plan. It's just going to be attached to the plan. Strategic planning committee took this over this year because the commissioners agreed that it fell right in line with what the strategic planning committee was trying to do and planning for the future. So we took it on and started working with Clearwater Financial. We had 3 meetings with them virtually where we got to give them our feedback about how the current projects were going and tell them about any new things that we had that we wanted included as well. So Sue is here with me to answer any questions, if any. I'll go over each of the little bulleted points. If you have any questions, let me know. Sue can help answer some of those questions as well. So it lists everybody on the committee who, on the document that you have, that was on the committee. And then it goes down to our first priority, which is the Gold Dust property. You guys are very familiar with this. You probably know more about it than I do. So it feels weird reporting on it to you, but my understanding is it's on schedule and the construction is underway. It's starting, should be completed by the end of 2025, and then hopefully by spring of 2026 fully operational once IT is able to put in critical infrastructure and utilities. We also have listed here that there was some interest in Idaho Power in using some of our land or buying some of our land, but they have withdrawn. But there's possible other people who might be interested, which could give us some revenue. So we have that listed there.
I got a real quick question. I know we've been dealing with Clearwater for ever since it started. Is there any need to keep them in the process? I mean, they're still charging us for I don't know what, but we're not doing any more building projects right at the moment. I mean, just asking the question.
Yeah, I personally am not familiar with their contract and what it says and how that works. I can tell you
Gabrielle and
in this process. Go ahead.
Gabrielle, Madam Chair, to Commissioner Thompson's question there. So this is actually part of our annual retainer. So this project comes as at no cost to the county. It's an annual thing that we look to do as part of the update to the MFP that we originally worked through with you guys a few years back. So no cost to you to do this work.
Okay, that's why I was asking the question. It's just like we're kind of there and done. I didn't know if we were still getting charged. So I appreciate that, Cameron.
This kind of a planning document, it's an ongoing document. So we will never really be done with it. Right now, it's updated as of this year. So as we move these projects off, we will bring new projects on. And they'll help us update with that too.
Okay.
Can I ask a quick question? So this Intermountain Infrastructure Group, is that a government entity or private?
So they have never responded. That actually could be taken off there. I tried to reach out to Chris and we never got anything. And they were supposed to have had a pop site in Cascade this summer. So I know that we're not interested anymore.
Okay. So and Idaho Power isn't either, correct? Okay.
All right, so then we'll go on to number 2, the Cascade Annex. It's also ongoing, trying to relocate the assessors, the building, planning, and zoning departments over to the 700 South Main Street address that we bought a year or two ago. Again, this is one that's heavily in front of you guys, so you know a lot about the progress on this and where we're at on that. The timeline was within a year. And hopefully it's said to be kicked off July 1st. And this could be a multi-phase project that would take multiple budget years. We don't think that it'll all get done this fiscal year, so it'll carry over into the next fiscal year.
Neil, do we need to ask to be put on the commissioner's agenda regarding like the petitions and what have you? Or do I need to ask Scott to be?
I think that's a Scott thing there. 'Cause that's facilities, equipment, and furniture.
Maybe have Noreen and Scott present to you guys?
I think that's a good idea. We will have to approve that.
I know.
It's a budget that has not been budgeted for.
And I don't know how long it'll take for them to, they may have everything in stock, they may not.
Yeah, we need to ask some questions on this. 'Cause
Yes.
I have no idea what, how much is this incorporating everything we need or not? So yes, if you would ask Noreen.
It will incorporate all of the petition walls that we talked about, and it will incorporate, desks for the cubicles that are out in the middle. We have enough desks for everybody else. and or cartography is getting built in.
So is this just for the assessor's office, or is this planning
Yes.
and zoning?
No,
And
I was
building
told
department.
that, I was told that planning and zoning was doing their own,
And zoning
they have
and
everything they needed.
building department weren't having any cubicles or anything.
Well, they are, so that's why this
So we need
conversation
to-
needs to be had.
We need to clarify that then, because that Cinda said she didn't need anything, so I don't know. I didn't
Who
think.
said that?
Cinda. I didn't think to ask. I didn't think to ask Annette. She never said anything, so
Okay, well, the
There's
west
no
side of the
west side.
building, we have everything lined out.
okay. Then I'll connect with those two and make sure,
They may
because we
have
need to put it all in here.
well, they may have to add to the bid, and instead of it having two different visits, we should have it all together for you guys at once.
Okay.
In my opinion.
I'll do that then.
There's front desks out front.
Yep.
They have to have this, so we can work with Abby.
Well, those
Clear water
desks,
too.
those desks are built in, the ones that are out front, for the public to come up to. Those are all built into the walls. On the building department and the P and Z side.
Maybe we should put a workshop together for like next week with everyone, and Maureen, since she is asset to the.
And Craig. Craig is very instrumental in this.
Mhm.
Craig and Noreen.
Okay.
That would be helpful.
He's gone.
I will email him.
Okay.
All right, so we're ready to go on to
So,
the next one?
yeah, so in the meantime, are you gonna talk to
Yeah, I'll
Cinda
talk
and
to Cinda
Annette?
and I'll talk to Annette and just clarify what their needs are. And then we'll
Okay.
get that, down to,
If they do end up needing petitions, how about if we have them maybe cross over with Craig and Noreen?
oh, absolutely.
And then they can have, the company maybe come back.
Yeah, we want to get it all from the same company.
Yeah, and well, we want them to bring all the stuff and install it all at once.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
We'll
that
go
would
over
be,
that.
that'd be the most cost effective.
We'll go over the map for the floor plan.
Okay.
So next Monday, you've emailed,
We'll see if there's room on these.
oh, you know what? There isn't really. room.
23rd was really full.
That's what?
The 23rd's agenda is already really
That BOE,
full. No.
just full.
Let's just talk about it
As
when we
the
have to
email,
start
and
at
then we'll
8:30.
take a look, because there may be some things that can be moved around.
Okay, too.
We have to start early.
That's fine with me.
Me too.
It would have been good this morning. I didn't get here till about 9:15. I had to go around West
Oh,
Mountain
that's
Road.
right.
It was a long drive. It's okay. I had a lot of company going around the road.
Sure.
Okay, so the next one, the fairgrounds.
Number 3, we put the Valley County Event Center. So we had been calling it the Fairgrounds, but we rebranded it Valley County Event Venue. So we were talking about getting there already has been an RFP for a master plan for that area. And the consultant was picked on April 25th or April of 2025. So this is moving along. Master plan would hopefully be done in 2025, and then it would be a phased construction, most likely.
Under the notes, did Scott update you guys the rodeo grandstand expansion grant? We did not get that from T-Mobile. That is, after the master plan is done with Clearwater, we would get extra points for having that master plan in place. So this is something we probably need to revisit next year when we actually have the plan done. Actually, maybe even last quarter, depending on how quickly we get the plan done. Because those grants are every quarter. They give away $50,000 at T-Mobile. It's fairly competitive.
Isn't this our final version? So isn't our plan done at this point?
The master plan for the event venue.
Oh,
just
for
get
that
that.
actual location.
Yep.
Did they give a time frame on how long the master plan is done?
I don't know.
I think targeted completion is by the end of
maybe first quarter, yep.
So then number 4, we put the senior center, figure out what the highest and best use of this property is. This is one that there was a lot of discussion, a lot of different feelings about the different potentials that could be done with the building, whether we sell it, rent it out, remodel, all sorts of different options. And so we decided to do a subcommittee to get together 3 or 4 people to kind of come out with a plan going forward for the best use of that. That it isn't underused.
Since we got access to those, what are they called, CBG, CD
CBG,
grants.
Community Development Block Grant.
Yeah, it's like that's gonna work real well for that building.
Ken was gonna be on the subcommittee to help with the grant process. We haven't met yet, but it was gonna be Catlin, myself, and Ken, and if anyone else wanted.
We have an upcoming meeting, it's probably gonna be on the 30th, about a potential client in there. The church, I spoke with the church last week, they're gonna know by Friday their actual date to move, but they're hoping August 1st. But Ignite has reached out, they want to create a childcare center, youth center, a lot of things, just like, and replicate what they're doing in McCall right now.
That would be amazing.
It would be amazing. Yep.
That would bring resources to our community that we desperately need.
It would.
Wow, that's exciting.
It is exciting, and they already have their grant in place, so they are fully funded to do this work. They already have somebody hired to open the daycare. So if we all end up being in agreement, I've asked her to come and talk about it at an upcoming meeting, so we'll solidify that with her, but there is a large opportunity there. So I don't know if a subcommittee, might be wise at this point in time, but if we can get that kind of use out of it and support the community like that, I think that would behoove us to keep it.
Yeah, and I know there's other groups that are interested in it too, so maybe we need to do it on a larger scale, have multiple of them come in and present what they.
Okay, yep. That's when you find a place on the agenda for me. And we'll put it out there to whoever wants to come in and make a presentation.
And number 5, buildings and ground facility relocation. It's been discussed that buildings and grounds need more of a permanent place. Where they're at right now isn't feasible, and where they're at right now down the road is on discussion for the best use for that property as well later on in our master plan. So we need to come up with a long-term plan for where they're going to be housed so that it frees up the space for whatever planning we choose to do with that property over there next to our rentals.
So was the discussion about this or where they're at now with their office?
It's
They
all
just-
of it.
all of it.
It's figuring out where to put everything. If they can have there was a lot of discussion, should they go down to the Cascade Annex? Should they stay here? Should they be split? There's a lot of stuff. So we put it on here as a plan to make a plan of where they should be located and
Well,
the
they
best use for them, because they're going to need to put all their snow equipment.
Yeah.
They need
That they need to use here. So the stuff that they used down at the Cascade Annex can be stored at the road department, but they need their snow blowers, probably the skid steer here, to maintain, the snow removal. And I'm not sure, but of what all they need to house, but
Is that
we had talked about the shed over here, which has a bunch of records stored in it now. Probably need to be.
Well, they've already been told that they could have that shed. It's just a matter of clearing it out,
Okay.
which is fine, but I don't think that fully meets
But it
their
wasn't enough.
needs. So
is that a dedicated alleyway behind the EOC? Is that
The one that runs this way?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I
One that
think it's
runs
just,
this way?
no?
no, that's
think that's
just, I think that's part of the county's lot.
Well, that's part of what we could look at is add an extension on that EOC on the back side.
that was discussed.
That was discussed
That
as well.
would make
building
good
over
sense
there.
for equipment and all the stuff that they meant.
Yeah, it could just be a shed roof with a curtain wall, to protect the snow from coming back in and so they can park their equipment, get out both
Mhm.
ends.
Plus an office in there too, so, there's,
That'll be on the agenda in a year or two. As soon as we get done with all these other projects,
yeah,
then we'll
exactly.
come back to this.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's where this drives the whole conversation.
So then number 6, the courthouse remodel and future development area. So that's what do we do with courthouse? Do we remodel, tear it down, tear some down? You know, lots of opinions on that one, of course. So, but that's not a near decision to be making. That is a 5 to 10 year plan to take everything into consideration. So that's
Parking lot.
why it's further down on the list. 7 is the Lake Fork recycling and road operation. So we kind of separated this out because recycling is out at the Lake Fork site, correct? And I've never actually been there, so I'm probably not the best person to talk about it. But then we have the pickleball course. So we have kind of 2 different things going on at the same place. So we kind of made them. So we made 7 and 8 different. So 7 is for the recycling and road operation. To develop a plan of what to do, if we're going to expand the recycling, because Scott has said that is a need.
And number 7 probably needs to be up about where number 5 is, but it doesn't matter. We can reallocate these as we do it next year too, so.
So then 8 would be the Lake Fork Master Facility Development on how to use that land for recreation use. Right now we have the pickleball courts there, so how to make it overall for recreation.
Well, first and foremost, they need to figure out how to get all the usable material out of there. So hopefully Dan's working on that.
Yeah, we put a subcommittee together with Dan, Jeff, Scott Klingon, and Larry, I believe. So they would be discussing that and kind of figuring out how to use that. 9 was the McCall Annex, which we talked about a few weeks ago. So the subcommittee got together and talked about the McCall Annex. So informed you on how McCall PD wants to expand, and so we have to make some decisions on whether or not we remodel and still rent to them, sell, and all that kind of stuff. So the subcommittee is working on a plan, a more concrete plan for you guys.
Don't we, did anybody look at, on that recycle, don't we just subsidize that all the time? Doesn't pay for itself. I won't say anymore.
On the McCall Annex, the police department did reach out last week again, and they want to make sure that at the very minimum, we are willing to do a longer term lease in this 5 years, because they're putting a lot of resources into it. They want to make sure they're not putting resources into it until, we either have a plan to sell it or that at least they have a 10 to 15 year lease on it. So
Or
that
give
is
them,
something.
and give them maybe the first right of refusal if they
Yeah.
decide to sell.
Exactly, yep. So we do need to work on that at least next year to try and solidify that. I did tell them that at the very minimum, I know that we would be willing to do a long-term lease.
If we sold, we'd have to have a place for our court services there, so.
There's a lot to explore on that one. And then number 10 was the Justice Facility and Emergency Operation Plan, EOC. So again, this is a 10+ year thing, which is something we have out there that we will need to discuss down the road. A couple of other things that were listed after our 10 thing was solid waste infrastructure and landfill planning. Well, it's not a county operated department, the soil or the solid waste district infrastructure included the landfill and regional transfer sites. So the county leaders identified the landfill as a long-term investment priority and recommended tracking future expansion possibilities. Up there just to note it, and then same with sports complex that was in the master plan, the original master plan, but has been determined that we are not the appropriate entity to be doing that, and as you know, and other stakeholders are working on that.
Interesting.
thrilled that we have a master facility plan. It's something that we started, gosh, Gabby, how long ago? 3 years, 4 years? And just needed a planning tool so that we set priorities for the county and we could start figuring out infrastructure, finances, as far as how we were gonna finance some of this stuff. We've made so much progress in the time that we've had this in place. I'm just really, really thrilled about where we're at with this.
It's amazing what happens when you set goals.
I know it is. It really is. Things seem to align. And yeah, some of these other things, I know that there's some strategies that we can incorporate too. So thank you for all of your hard work. Thank you for taking the leadership on this. And really appreciate that. Thank you, Cameron, for your guys' work on this. This is a great project.
Yeah, totally agree, Madam Chair. Just awesome team. That goes without saying, and just yeah, don't be surprised when you get good folks charging ahead in a priority way that things get done. So it's a huge kudo to the county to start seeing these things get checked off the list and new ones coming on. So yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Any other questions on this? I would accept a motion to approve the update to the master facilities plan.
Can we do that without it being an action item?
Yeah, Madam Chair, we didn't have it as an action item, with just a presentation, but we can put it on.
Yeah, we need to update it. We need to approve the update.
We will add it next week then.
All right. Next up is an opportunity for general public. There is none in the room. So we will move into an executive session for indigent and charity. I would move that we go into executive session for Idaho Code 742061D.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote.
Thompson, aye.
Mop and I.
I'll go aye.
Doug, we're in at 3:26.